If you're watching this and you're under 30, please don't scroll away. I know you think you have time. I thought the same thing. Everyone thinks the same thing when they're young. Time feels endless then, like something that belongs to you, like something you can always borrow from later. I'm 73 years old now, and I want to tell you something honestly, without drama, without exaggeration. I would give everything I own, my house, my savings, every object with my name on it, even the years I have left, just to go back and undo one decision I made when I was young. Not a crime, not a scandal, not a failure. Just one very reasonable, very logical choice that everyone round me applauded. At the time, it didn't look like a mistake at all. It looked mature, responsible, sensible. People told me I was smart for choosing it. My parents felt relieved. My friends said I was doing life the right way. I believed them because when enough people repeat something, it starts to sound like truth. I grew up believing life was supposed to be a straight line. You study, you work hard, you stay practical, you don't take unnecessary risks. You do what makes sense. That's how success is built. That's how respect is earned. That's how a good life is supposed to happen. I didn't grow up poor, but we weren't comfortable either. Money was always discussed carefully in our house, like a fragile object that could break if spoken about too loudly. My father worked hard his entire life. He believed stability was the highest form of success. To him, dreams were dangerous things. He didn't hate them, he just didn't trust them. When I was young, I had dreams. Real ones. I wanted to write. I wanted to create things that mattered. I wanted to travel, not as a tourist, but as someone curious about the world. I wanted my life to feel like it belonged to me. But every time I mentioned these things, I could see the worry in my parents' eyes. They never said no directly. They just reminded me how hard life could be. Dreams don't pay rent. That sentence followed me for years. So when I was offered a stable job, good salary, predictable future, no big risks, I accepted it without much hesitation. It felt like relief. It felt like adulthood. It felt like I was finally doing what I was supposed to do. I told myself I could always come back to my dreams later, when I had more money, when things were more secure, when life slowed down. Later felt safe. Later felt responsible. Later felt wise. I didn't realize then that later is one of the most dangerous words in the human language. The first few years passed quickly. They always do. New responsibilities kept me busy. Promotions came. People started depending on me. I learned how to sound confident even when I wasn't. I learned how to hide uncertainty behind experience. I got married. We were young. We loved each other in the way young people love, full of hope and assumptions. We believed things would naturally get better with time. We bought a small house. Not the one we dreamed of, but the one we could afford. We filled it with furniture that made sense financially, not emotionally. From the outside, my life looked successful. Respectable, stable. Inside, something began to quiet down. At first, I didn't notice it. It wasn't pain. It wasn't sadness. It was more like a soft dimming, like someone slowly lowering the volume on a song you loved until one day you realize it's barely playing anymore. I stopped writing. I told myself I was too tired. I stopped imagining different versions of my life. I told myself I was being realistic. I stopped asking myself what I wanted, because that question felt inconvenient. Every time that small voice inside me tried to speak, I answered it with logic. Be grateful. This is what adults do. Other people have it worse. You're lucky, and by many definitions, I was lucky. I had a job, I had stability, I had people who depended on me. Society rewards that. It praises it. It makes you feel like you're winning. But comfort without meaning doesn't feel like peace for long. It feels like something missing, something vague, something you don't have a word for. By the time I was 40, I was respected at work. Younger colleagues came to me for advice. People trusted my judgment. I smiled easily. I laughed at the right moments. I knew how to sound confident in meetings. But late at night, when the house was quiet and no one needed anything from me, I felt empty. Not in a dramatic way. Not in a way that made me cry. It was a quiet emptiness. An ominous, like a room inside me that had never been furnished, and I had stopped checking on it. Here's something no one warns you about. If you keep choosing safety, eventually safety will cost you everything. Not all at once, slowly, quietly. Piece by piece. No one tells you that comfort has a price. No one tells you that being responsible can slowly erase who you are if you are not careful. People talk about bad decisions ruining lives, but they don't talk enough about reasonable decisions doing the same thing over time. I didn't crash my life. I didn't fail publicly. I didn't lose everything overnight. I faded. And fading is dangerous because it feels harmless while it's happening. I was 51 when I almost changed everything. I remember that day clearly. I had just finished work and sat in my car in the parking lot. The engine was off. My hands were on the steering wheel, but I couldn't bring myself to turn the key. I just sat there, staring at nothing. Earlier that day, a younger colleague had resigned. He told us he was leaving to start something of his own. His voice shook when he spoke, but his eyes were alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. Everyone else said he was foolish, reckless, naive. I felt something else, envy. Sharp, sudden, and comfortable envy. Not of his plan, but of his courage. That night, I told my wife I wasn't happy. I didn't say it dramatically. I didn't accuse anyone. I just said it quietly, like a confession I had been holding for years. She listened. Then she said, "But we're doing fine, aren't we?" She wasn't wrong, and that was the problem. Fine is a dangerous word. Fine keeps you still. Fine keeps you quiet. Fine convinces you not to ask harder questions. So I stayed. Years passed faster after that. Much faster. No one tells you that time accelerates. At 20, a year feels long. At 30, it moves quicker. At 50, it disappears. Your children grow while you're busy. Your parents age while you're distracted. Your body changes while you're focused elsewhere. One day you realize your knees hurt for no clear reason. One day you notice your reflection looks older than you feel inside. You wake up one morning, look in the mirror, and see a stranger with familiar eyes. At 60, people start talking about retirement, about finally living, about all the things they'll do when they're free. Travel. Hobbies. Passions. But here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. If you postpone living long enough, you forget how. Energy doesn't wait for retirement. Curiosity doesn't come back on command. Courage weakens when it's unused. I was 68 when reality finally caught up to me. A close friend passed away suddenly. No long illness. No warning. One phone call, and he was gone. At his funeral, people spoke about his life. They listed his achievements, his roles, his responsibilities. And as I listened, something inside me collapsed. They were describing a life that ended, not a life that was fully lived. Driving home, I pulled over to the side of the road and cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like someone finally admitting something to himself. I wasn't crying because my friend died. I was crying because I realized I was next. And I had been lying to myself for decades. So here it is, the lesson that took me 52 years to learn. Your life is not meant to be postponed. Dreams don't expire, but you do. Energy fades, time shortens, opportunities no. Security feels wise until you realize it kept you small. Approval feels good until you realize it cost you authenticity. Stability is valuable, but not when it becomes an excuse to abandon yourself. No one is coming to give you permission. No moment will arrive where everything feels safe enough to finally choose what matters. That moment is a myth. And the tragedy isn't failure. Failure teaches. Failure sharpens. Failure reminds you that you tried. The tragedy is reaching old age and realizing you never truly chose yourself. If you're under 30, I'm not telling you to quit your job tomorrow. I'm not telling you to be reckless or irresponsible. I'm telling you to listen. That quiet discomfort you feel sometimes, that sense that something is missing, that life feels slightly off, that doesn't go away on its own. It gets quieter, then heavier, then permanent. Make room for what matters now, not later. Speak before silence becomes a habit. Take small risks before fear grows roots. Choose meaning over applause, at least sometimes. Don't wait for a someday. Someday is where dreams go to die politely, without making a mess. My regret isn't that I failed. It's that I never truly tried. I lived carefully. I lived responsibly. I lived acceptably. But I didn't live bravely. And bravery, I've learned, isn't about dramatic moves or grand gestures. It's about honesty. It's about choosing yourself before it's too late. If this made you uncomfortable, that's not a bad thing. Discomfort is often the sound of truth knocking. If you're still young, you still have time. Please, don't waste it the way I did.